Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Gran Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Gran Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Gran Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Gran Group with Edina Realty, 3-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Texas Rangers. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins managed to only steal 1 of 3 from the Texas Rangers in Arlington. Didn't look great. The starters go a combined 13 innings across the 3 games, Dan. What do you have to say for yourself?
I will say that the Twins are still in first place by 4.5 games because the rest of the Central is under 500. So I guess there's that.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals doing work. I mean, we have to, honestly, if you have a Royals or a Tigers fan in your life, buy them a beer, buy them a drink, send them dinner, do something, because they are taking care of business against the Guardians.
It's pretty great to see because the Twins are now 48-40, and that's good enough for a 4.5 game lead over Cleveland. And the White Sox are right behind them now. They're a half game back from Cleveland. So I do think the Twins are pretty much going to go into the All-Star break with a lead in the Central. And that's really the frame I'm trying to look at this all through. Is that, hey, we're looking at a first place team midway through the season.
Yes, absolutely. And if you look here also, as you know, I try and go through and I update the roster as we do before each episode to make sure we're up to date and we're looking at the right players. This is the first time that I can remember this season where the Twins have not made a roster move in 4 days, Dan.
Do you know what's coming, though? It's got to be coming soon. Miguel Sano has got to be making his way back onto this roster very soon, David. He hit 2 home runs in 4 Florida Complex League at bats.
For those of you who don't know, that's basically he went to the local Y and he joined a softball league and is just crushing down there.
And they're like, wait a second, isn't that guy, do we recognize you? Are you Miguel Sano? Yes, I am Miguel
You think he admits
Sano.
it? You think he admits it?
Of course he does. He's a proud guy, I'm sure. One of those home runs, we should say, was against Boston's Matt Barnes, who has been a reliever in, I think, some playoff games in baseball. So clearly Miguel Sano is ready to come back to this lineup very soon.
With that, also, we should note, 2 Twins make the All-Star game. Neither starters, but both Arise and Buxton make the All-Star games as alternates.
And that's great, right? I think that's right. They should both be All-Stars this season for, I think, very different profiles, really. I mean, Luis Arise has been just so steady, and Buxton is just so dang entertaining and fun to watch and comes up with so many big plays.
Do you think that because Arise isn't your prototypical first baseman, do you think that hurt his first baseman chances?
I think so, because he's played first, he's played second, he played a little bit of third even in the series. I think voters in some sense don't know where to place him. If there was a utility type of option, I think he's maybe your guy.
Yeah, well, with that, Dan, let's jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, this one hurt. Dan, Twins lose this one 6-5. Gray on the mound doesn't look great, goes 4 2/3 pitched. 5 runs, all of them earned, 2 walks. Now, granted, some of those earned runs were inherited runners that scored on the Corey Seager home run given up by Thielbar, who came in to try and clean up Gray's mess. But my goodness, Dan, this one hurt because anytime that the opposing team only scores in 1 inning, like, you think you have a pretty good shot to win the game, but when they score 6 runs, Dan, it's a different ballgame.
Totally, and the Twins left, well, we've done this math before, so as a team, they left 9 on base, but if you add up all the individuals, they left 22 guys on base in this game, including 5 from Correa, 3 from Polanco. I mean, these are some of your guys that you're kind of counting on to get some of those big hits, and they just didn't get them. And the 3-0 lead by the 3rd inning didn't feel big enough, really, for the way that the Rangers clearly, as we saw through the series, can hit home runs.
And the big thing here, Dan, that really bothers me, walking in a run, inexcusable. Inexcusable. You have to make the other team plate that run.
You do. And that was really, the Twins pitched themselves into jams, really, over the course of the series, in ways that it's like, gosh, just make them hit the ball. that they weren't able to do. A couple of other things about this game. Max Kepler goes 3 for 5 in the cleanup spot. He looked quite good. Correa does hit that home run, which, nice to see him hitting home runs. It feels like he should have more than just the 6 that he's got this season.
Yeah, do you know that he has more home runs against the Rangers than anybody else?
Well, I guess he used to see them so much. Did he get booed pretty hard? I wasn't able to follow the first game as much.
Yeah, so it was pretty aggressive off the bat.
Nick Gordon gets a couple hits in this game. I know you don't love Nick Gordon, but I want to talk a little bit more about him later. The Twins did, I would argue, you want to say enough with the bats, but it was that 6 spot in the 5th. It was just so dang costly.
Yeah, 5 runs is enough if you have a adequate bullpen, I think, normally. But with this team, especially when the starter struggles, you're in all sorts of trouble. 5 runs just won't cut it.
No, but Cotton did come in. He pitched 2 innings. He had 4 strikeouts. Pagan actually pitched a clean inning with 2 strikeouts, which I was encouraged at least by that.
One other bright spot in this game, folks, if you have not seen the replay of Buxton's catch, it did make number 1 on SportsCenter's top 10, so you know it was good. This is remarkable. You have to watch it. It's hard. I explained it to a guy at church this morning, and he's like, I'm going to have to look it up because it's hard to really understand. So if you haven't seen it, basically, the Orioles redid their wall this offseason where there's basically just a flat wall facing the left fielder if he's running towards center field, which is going to create all sorts of injuries. Well, at the Rangers stadium, there's sort of a similar sort of feel between left and center. The wall is curved a little bit, so it's at an angle. It's not just like a straight flat wall, but Buxton is bolting towards this sort of indentation in the fence. So is Nick Gordon. And Nick Gordon goes up to catch the ball. Gordon misses it. Buxton, no idea how, keeps his eye on the ball, catches the ball, and then slams into that awkward angle wall piece there. But my goodness, the catch is absolutely remarkable, and Buxton's still alive.
Isn't that always our first reaction when he does those things?
Yes.
Because his hand kind of hit the wall with the glove, and I'm worried, gosh, that's a wrist, that's an arm injury in some sense. Just great concentration. So good. One thing, though, about this. So a lot of the marketing around Buxton, puns on the F word, shall we say.
Yeah.
Unbucking, believable, things like this. I've never loved puns on curse words. Am I old-fashioned, David?
No, I'm not big in cursing to begin with.
Great catch, but Twins marketers, can we come up with another way here? That's all I'm saying.
Well, you just wouldn't, if it came out of your kid's mouth, you'd be like, what?
Right. Don't say that. No, come on.
No.
Just describe
Careful
it clearly to me. Like, what a remarkable catch by Byron Buxton in center field.
Okay, with that, Dan, let's go on to game 2. This one, another heartbreaking loss. I really thought going into this series, I thought the Twins had a good chance to win the series, but this game, Dan, Twins lose this one 9-7. The Rangers go up 3-0 in the bottom of the 2nd. It's the top of the 4th, and the Twins score 6 runs. Like I just said about game 1, if a team scores 6 runs in an inning, that should give them a pretty good chance to win. And honestly, when it happened, I was like, oh, it's nice to give them a taste of their own medicine. But of course, in the bottom of the 4th, Texas comes back, scores 4 more. They add 2 more in the 8th to come away with this one 9-7.
I'm going to come back to this a little bit more in the 4th. It didn't feel, as I'm listening to this game across the reaches of Montana, that the Twins were really comfortable in that 6-3 lead, because Smeltzer had not looked good leading up to that. And the Twins were already kind of thin in their bullpen after game 1. And I just felt like they had left some runs out there. Buxton nearly hit a home run in that 4th inning, that if they had that extra run there, it's a 7-7 game late.
Yeah.
And then in the 8th, the Twins do the tack out a run that ends up being the tying run in the 8th, but then Duran comes in and is able to, and he gives up a couple runs there. And I don't really fault Duran for this one. I know that he took the L, but to me, Smeltzer had really earned the loss here in this one in giving up those 4 in the 4th inning.
Once again, the min for the win-loss statistic comes into play, Dan.
Well, I know we've talked about the win before, but the loss too. Like, I think that gets underrepresented. So I think we need to reconsider that too. Like, what should really constitute the loss? Like, which pitcher was really the most deleterious to its team's chances of winning? I think that's the word I'm going to go with.
That was good. English teacher word, Dan. I got to be honest. If you use that in a sentence, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it means. I assume it's like culpable is what that word means.
I might not really even know what it means either, but sometimes you use a big word and you just use it with confidence and context, and people let you get away with it.
Yeah, but there were some home runs hit by Miranda and Sanchez in this one that really kept the Twins in it, but alas, nothing doing in game 2.
I think there's more to say, but let's come up with that later in the segments.
Game 3, Dan, Twins finally managed to squeak out a victory, 6-5, literally squeak out a victory here. Even this one I never felt comfortable, and anytime you have Duffey coming in to get the save, it's going to be impossible to feel comfortable, Dan.
I feel more comfortable, though, with Duffey now than I did with Pagan. Like, I'd rather see Duffey in that situation than Pagan.
I don't even know how to respond. I don't know. I truly don't. Like, if you said, okay, you're going to die, you have to pick which pitcher has the chance to save your life between Duffey and Pagan, I'd be like, you know what, let me try myself. Let me just see if the defense can take care of this for me. I mean, Pagan only had one inning this entire series, and he pitched a clean inning, so I don't know what to tell you.
Let's keep it that way. The Twins do this one. It felt early like another game of wasted opportunities because the Twins left guys on early. You know, the Twins were up 3-0 over the first inning and a half, and then Texas ties it up, and that already felt like there were wasted opportunities. But the Twins just did enough here, and I got to credit the bullpen. They really had a pretty good game, and overall a pretty good series.
I guess. Right, like it was hard in game 2 specifically because they had so much ground to cover, and they still managed to hold it together outside of Duran's 2 runs that he gave up at the end of the game.
And I think we've been pretty nervous, it seems like, in every Twins baseball game for the last month, right?
Yeah.
Their last 10 losses have either come by 1 or 2 runs.
Oof.
Which that's remarkable to me because it gives us all of these what if moments, but at the same time, like I guess I'd take that over a number of blowouts in there. They're just in every game.
It feels close, and it just, I don't know, my heart can take it, Dan. You know, I'm still recovering from COVID, and I don't really care for this these close games. Give me a blowout. Just give me a 10-1 win.
But it happens to teams. I think that's what's hard is that we're seeing the Twins be in every game, and I hope that down the road, this really does pay off. The Rangers were like 5-17 in one-run games. The Rangers are maybe not nearly as bad as their record if they can just get a run here or there, and I was really just struck overall throughout the series. The Rangers have a really good lineup, and they clearly have a great stadium. They have a better fan base now that they can go there, and they're not like, it's not 95 degrees and humid every night that they go to the baseball stadium. I think the Rangers are actually maybe a better team than we give them credit for.
If we had to pick someone for Puckett's picks on the other team, Corey Seager, my goodness, gosh. 2 for 3 in game 1 with 3 RBIs. In game 2, he goes 2 for 3 with 1 RBI and 2 walks. And then game 3, he goes 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. My goodness, that guy was on a tear.
And there were a number of those at-bats that were with 0-2 counts or 1-2 counts, and he's getting a hit. I mean, the Twins did themselves no favors in pitching to him, but gosh, he's a guy where if you're ever going to intentionally walk somebody, David, I think I would understand walking Seager intentionally. All right, should we move into our segments?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
The world is right once again, Dan.
David, and here's the thing. I had talked myself up here. I think even Hogs made a comment like he thought that I was going to pick Kepler, and I think I would have been better off with Kepler. I think I would have won with Kepler, but I go with Kirilov. He gets me 1 point. The listeners take Polanco with 1. You take the slow and steady Correa. He gets you 5, and he gets you the win.
I don't understand. It's remarkable to me that you or the listeners haven't figured out that if I get the opportunity to take Correa, I'm going to take him. And Correa now has a better than 50% chance of winning for me so far this season when I pick him.
No, you just twisted the stats there. He doesn't have a better chance of winning when you pick him. It's just that it so happens that you've picked him 12 times and he's won 7, but it's not like Carlos Correa thinks, oh, David picked me, I'm going to win Puckett's picks this time. That's not how stats work, David.
No, I'm happy. I work with numbers all day, Dan. Let me tell you, I'm pretty sure what I said was correct.
I have picked so many guys. I've picked more players than anybody in this contest
by
that
one.
We have.
By one.
But that's more than you, right? Nobody has won more than twice from me. I am an equal opportunist here when it comes to Puckett picks.
Yeah, I mean, the listeners love picking Buxton in a rise, and they just don't provide the victories.
Anyways, you have the season lead now. You have 12 points. I have 9. Listeners have 6, which is nicely statistical. I still lead in points scored. I have 153. You have 136. The listeners have 115. And I'm going to keep giving that stat until I am atop the wins title.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
It means everything, David. It means everything. It's going to be the tiebreaker in the end here. I have the run differential here that evens out over the course of the season.
All right, well, let's keep going. Beast versus bench.
Beast versus bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Can I say that I'm on the Miranda train now?
Yeah,
David?
Certainly.
Can we? So I picked Jose Miranda. So he had a home run in game 2. Ended up, not being everything, but he did have the game tying home run in the 4th inning of game 2. He ends up with a hit in that game. And then in game 3, he comes up with a couple more hits, 2 RBI. I just think, Miranda has really earned himself a spot on this team. I've seen a bunch of stats posted how he's got an OPS over. I mean, he's been very good over the last month or two. And I got to give credit. I think he's been a great player for the Twins.
This is the second episode in a row that you've sort of changed your tune on Miranda.
I'm okay with eating crow when I have to here.
On this show, Dan, we do it. I mean, that's basically all we eat on this show.
Who do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to give it to Jeffers, just because there's not a lot of opportunities to do so. But he had a very good series. In game 1, he goes 3 for 4. He didn't play in game 2, but then in game 3, he goes 2 for 4. And again, 5 RBIs between those games. Maybe he's turning a corner, and he's going to be that guy that the Twins thought he could be. But I don't know. I'll take it for what it's worth. Maybe it was seeing Mitch Garver. It really just sort of lit a fire under Jeffers. He was like, that guy left. I was going to be the guy. And then they brought in Sanchez. He's just bitter about it.
Well, and Garver, he outperformed Garver in this series. Also, I thought it was interesting that they were saving Garver's surgery until he could play this series, because he's been DHing for a long time now on this team. Jonah Heim's been getting all the starts at catcher. So I guess that was kind of cool, but it looks like Garver's going to be shut down now here for a while.
Who do you got on your bench?
Oh man, David. Anytime I get a chance to pick a starting pitcher here, I'm going to seize it. I'm picking Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, just 5 earned over 4 2/3, 4 hits, 2 walks, a wild pitch in there too. They were just counting on him to win game 1 for them in this sense, to outduel John Gray in Gray versus Gray. And he didn't give them what they needed here to open the series.
Yeah, I hate to do this. I don't like doing this, but I'm going to join your world, Dan, and I am going to put Smeltzer on my bench. He can't do this. 3 1/3, 7 earned runs. Just, it's not good enough.
I don't understand why you feel like you can't give it to starters. Like, they pitch, they are very prominent in baseball games. Yes, they don't play 27 innings in a series, but they're out there. They throw a lot of pitches, David. They touch the baseball a lot.
If you're a Twin starter, you play. Sometimes you play as much as a reliever does in a series, depending.
Well, I would say Griffin Jacks played himself 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 innings in this series.
That's what I'm saying. No, but yeah, I don't mind putting a starter on the bench as much as I mind putting a relief guy on the bench, unless he had multiple appearances. Dan doesn't care if a guy comes in and gives a home run. He throws 3 pitches. He gets out of the inning, but he gave up 2 home runs on the first 2 pitches. Dan's like, on the bench. You
have one job. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, to get a couple guys out, that's your job. You got a whole week to get 3 batters out. That's what relievers do.
Well, let's keep going. Rocco's Rewind. You can piggyback off my Smeltzer bench pick.
Rocco's Rewind.
I will, because in game 2, I thought that it was a mistake to leave Devin Smeltzer in as long as Rocco did in the 4th inning. So as a reminder, the Twins scored 6 runs in the top of the 4th to turn what felt like a game that was getting out of hand for the Rangers into a Twins lead. And then Devin Smeltzer just lets a bunch of guys get on base. And Griffin Jacks had been warming up earlier in the game. And then he's like rapidly having to re-warm up. And I'm thinking, gosh, he's got to be ready, because Devin Smeltzer has not looked good. His curveball was not curving in the way that a curveball should. They cannot. I know that you want your starter to go to the 4th and the 5th and the 6th, and I get that actually Martin Perez was able to overcome that in a way that Smeltzer was not, but Martin Perez has turned himself into a veteran. Smeltzer is not. You have a chance to win a game on the road. You have to burn through your bullpen if you feel like your starter doesn't have it, and Smeltzer didn't have it.
A quicker pull definitely would have been the right call in that scenario.
What about you? What do you got?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. In game 2, you had Duffey come in and you had Duran. So both of them pitched in game 2. Obviously, Duran struggled a bit in game 2, but then you have them again in game 3. But in game 2, Duffey pitched first, then Miguel, then Duran. Then in game 3, you go Jacks, Duran, Duffey. And I'm not sure, was this just a matchup decision? Or why exactly did you switch the order and put Duran ahead of Duffey, knowing that this was going to be a close game at the end?
I think it's just a testament to the fact that Rocco does feel like Duffey has earned some trust. His ERA is down to 4.14, which compared to where it was, I think is pretty significant. It was his 2nd save of the season. I think overall this is a good development for the Twins bullpen.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess I still probably would have switched those and given Duffey the 8th and Duran the 9th.
Maybe, but the bottom line is that whatever he did in game 3 worked. They got 4 innings out of the bullpen. Duran does give up the 1 run on a home run, but the fact was, the Twins got holds out of Thielbar and Jacks, and even Duran in that sense.
My goodness, Dan, you go hot and cold against Rocco. You criticize the guy, and it's just fine. I criticize the guy, and Dan's like, wait.
Well,
wait. Clearly, he's thought this through, David. You are quite incorrect.
But here's the thing. They only got 13 innings out of their starters all series. I think whatever you can do, if it works for your bullpen for the rest of the series, I'm on board. I do think, I mean, they clearly miss guys, even like Cody Stashak, Joe Smith, a little bit of stability in this bullpen. It is just, the margin is razor thin right now for Rocco when he pulls when he picks up the phone to call for a bullpen arm. Not to mention, Wes Johnson's not even there anymore.
Yeah, who does he even talk to, Dan? He just picks up the phone and he has to do
Maybe
it,
it's
not
Duffey.
Johnson.
Maybe Duffey's actually running the bullpen now. We don't even know it, and that's why Duffey pitched the 9th in Game 3.
Everybody else got promoted out of the bullpen. There's only players in there. The inmates are running the asylum, Dan.
All right, let's move forward to our next segment.
Minnesota Moment.
Minnesota Moment, Dan. I have to go since we're talking about this. Duffey actually getting the save, Dan Thompson. Has to be Duffey getting the save in Game 3.
Taylor Rogers who, David, right? Is that what we should be saying now with Duffey? I applaud
it. The
it.
thing is, though, Dan, if you said that to somebody, if you said Taylor Rogers who, they would be like, "What? Why?" like they wouldn't know who you were even referring to. They'd just be like, I don't know exactly what you're trying to get at here, sir. Anyway, what do you have for your Minnesota moment, Dan?
I picked Buxton's opposite field home run in Game 3. It comes in the first inning. And I just, again, anytime a guy goes opposite field, and they talked about this a little bit on the telecast, how I think it was Glenn Perkins who has been great, I believe, doing color commentary on TV. Anytime you got a sinker ball pitcher, you cannot try to pull the ball, because when you pull the ball, especially away, that's when you hit ground balls. But Buxton went with it. He went opposite field, and I just love, I know we talk about Luis Arias has great bat control, but Buxton has really shown that lately with a lot of these half swing home runs and a lot of these, he's just kind of poking the ball to spots where it ought to go, given where the pitch is. And I thought that was just a great sign for Buxton.
Yes, I think it is a great sign. I do wonder how much him and Arias and Correa are bouncing ideas off each other and sort of giving tips to each other, because it does seem that maybe Buxton is picking up a little bit more on those sort of, like you said, contact skills, less about the home run balls.
Also, the Twins have been going with an Arias, Correa, Buxton order a little bit more. Buxton hasn't been leading off as much lately, and I do really like him batting later in the lineup, and maybe that's part of it.
I think he gives a pretty good chance of hitting with power, right? And so
Sure.
That's why I always want to rise at the top of the lineup, because he's going to see the most pitches, except for today. That was weird. To start the game, he swung on the first pitch. How often do you see that out of Luis Arias?
I know, and he went 0 for 5. His average is down to 348, and yet still an all-star.
Trade him.
Still an all-star.
Trade him, Dan. Get rid of him while his value's high.
All right, let's go to the Mauer's Musing.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
David, I'm going to ask the Dylan Bundy question, which I believe our oft co-host Andrew Hoganson asked this, or he compared him to Matt Shoemaker at some point, which, let me tell you, Matt Shoemaker, innings eater Matt Shoemaker. Gotta love him. But I think Dylan Bundy showed a little bit more, and he's shown a little bit more lately. He's not going to be great, but do you feel comfortable with him as your 4th and 5th starter?
Well, I mean, at this point, it's tricky, right? Because there's so many starters on this team that are sort of just thrown together, and we see how many innings we can get out of them. I guess I trust him as the 4th or 5th starter, but sort of trust as an element of force. There's what else am I supposed to do? I just don't know what else are my options as far as, no, I don't trust Dylan Bundy as my 4th starter.
But we talked about this past with Shoemaker and Happ. We're like, well, what do you think you're going to get? I mean, AJ Happ had decent trade value at the deadline last year.
Well, but what I'm saying is that with Bundy in particular, I don't mind him starting because I'd rather have relievers in a trade. So I guess if that's sort of the baseline for if I have trust in him, would I rather have him starting or keep the bullpen situation the way that it is? I'd rather have him starting and make a bullpen trade as opposed to trying to bring a starter to replace Bundy.
And we should mention too, the reports are that Chris Archer could be back even before the All-Star break. He could make one start before the All-Star break. If not, it sounds like he will be back later. Seems almost like that was a product of him maybe throwing extra pitches in that one game at the end of the Cleveland series, and that maybe then it was just a little bit precautionary, also a little bit convenient that you got Josh Winder coming back and you want to make room for him.
It does seem that way, and it is funny that you're asking this question after Bundy goes 5 innings pitched with 4 earned runs.
Well, but he did enough in this game to be able to avoid the trouble that Smeltzer fell into in Game 2. That's my point.
Yeah, I suppose if 7 earned runs is your baseline for trust, yes,
No.
I definitely trust Dylan Bundy.
All right, we're not going to settle this today. What's your question?
Every time the lineup card has been released for this series and the last series, actually, I look at it and I think in my head, is this the ideal lineup? Is this the lineup that I'd want to see virtually every day? And so really, I would say that just to run through it really quickly, there's some guys who are just cemented in where they need to be. Buxton's in center, Kepler's in right. You have Urshela at third, Correa at short, Polanco at second. Okay. Then catching is either Sanchez or Jeffers. I think I'd rather have Jeffers defensively behind the plate, but Sanchez, I'd rather have his bat in the lineup. But so really the question is, Dan, you have first base, left field, and DH. And then you have several guys who can fill those positions. So my question is to you, if you're filling out that lineup, more often than not, where would you put guys and who would you put in those positions?
Clearly Luis Arias has got to be playing, so he's either first base or DH. Alex Kirilloff has to be playing, and some of this is predicated on lefty-righty matchups, but I'm just going to say your standard straight-throwing pitcher. I don't know what that means. I'm going to say Kirilloff is in there, and Arias, and I think I want Nick Gordon in there for his versatility and his speed. So I guess those are the three that I would put out there.
Okay, so real quick, folks, if you blacked out 10 minutes ago when Dan was talking up Miranda about how he's just this great gift from the minor leagues and is finally coming into his own, and Dan gets the opportunity to put him in, and he says, you know what? No, Miranda, sit on the bench where you belong.
Well, okay, because he and Gordon are pretty statistically the same, right? If I look at their average and I look at their OPS, they're pretty much the same, and those are obviously the only two stats that I'm looking at the moment. I do want Miranda in there as your 10th man. Can he be the 10th man in the lineup?
What are you 10th man? What are you talking about?
Because
he
nobody
subs in every other inning.
Because the premise of what you're saying is not how baseball works anymore. Like, nobody plugs in the same 9 guys and then on Sundays gives the other 4 guys on the bench the day, right? Like, that's not how it works anymore.
Does. Rocco's like, hang on, Buxton played 2 games in a row, better give him an off day.
But that's a little bit different. There's a rotational system to that. So I would say Miranda is probably your 10th batter in that setup. And I know you could quibble and you could maybe put Gordon in that 10th spot too, but that's how I'm thinking about it.
No, it's no question for me. Arise at first, you put Kirilloff in left, and you give Miranda the DH slot.
You think you give him that? See, I don't know. I guess Miranda.
You'd rather have Nick in this situation. You have
no,
Nick Gordon,
but you're creating a
DH
false situation because assuming then that Buxton's going to DH sometimes too, and then I want to be able to have Gordon out there to play center and Celestino. By the way, I'm going to go on it. Doesn't Celestino, at least when I listen to the radio and Corey Provas, it sounds like every time Celestino hits the baseball, it's like 108 miles an hour, but it's right at somebody. Like Celestino has the worst batting average on balls in play or whatever you might call that advanced stat. That guy hits the ball hard every time.
Ask Lehman. I'm sure he's got 3 articles written about it.
I'm sure he's got a stat for it.
Yes, about how good Celestino is. He's just getting robbed.
He's underappreciated. Let's grade this thing.
Series grades.
I'm harsh, Dan. Maybe I'm upset. Maybe I'm still a little cranky and a little sleepy from the COVID. But I gotta say, this is an F. You had to come up with another victory here. The Rangers are not a good baseball team. We can say that we think their lineup is better than they performed. They are 39-44. They're in the AL West, which means they only have like one other team that they really have to even think about in that division. Dan Thompson. Everybody else in that division is terrible. If they're really a good team, they should be winning those games. Twins had to come away with a series victory. I'm giving them an F.
Hold on. Are you discounting the Mariners? Are you saying that they are not a great baseball team? They have Julio Rodriguez, one of the most exciting players in baseball. The Mariners are in second place. They've won 8 in a row now, David. They're right there.
How many games back are the Mariners?
Well, they're 12 games back from the Astros. But they've won 9 of 10. And I will say Texas has a plus 12 run differential, which I am a big believer in the run differential. If I'm a big believer in the Puckett's picks scoring differential. So, I mean, by that metric, Texas is a better team than Cleveland, than Chicago, than Detroit, than Kansas City.
Okay.
Even than Toronto, right? If we're counting run differential as being the end all be all, the Rangers are not as bad as their record. That's my point.
Okay, that's fair. I still feel that the Twins should have been able to win this series.
They could have. But what we have learned about this Twins team is that they're not going to make a trade for a reliever when it actually matters, right? In late June, early July. So they're going to wait until the end of July and hope for the best. Because I'm giving them a D+ for similar reasons. I just thought there were 2 bad outings by Gray and by Smeltzer. I think aside from that, this is a series that the Twins win, and I'm not going to pin it all. I'm not going to pin my grade on the performance of 2 pitchers.
Fair enough. Well, with that, Dan, let's go to Herbie's headline. An interesting topic for discussion, I'd say.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So, Dan, I get this notice on my phone, and, I'm getting all sorts of notices about the All-Star game. I've gotten a billion emails. I've had to unsubscribe from the MLB 6 times, and they still find me somehow. Very happy that Arise and Buxton made the All-Star game. But then I get this odd pop-up about the All-Star selections, about legacy players. Now, I didn't realize this was MLB The Show, where you could like play guys who played in the 80s. You know, you don't see Johnny Bench, making the All-Star team. But so the legacy players in this particular instance, Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. Now, you might ask, what? What's happened here? Yeah, that's a good question, because they are selected because at some point in their career, now granted, I'm being a bit facetious here. They are both very good players. Historically, they will be recognized. They'll obviously both be in the Hall of Fame. But at the same time, they're like, if you're old and you're still in the MLB and you're not in your prime, but you were once very, very good and you'll be in the Hall of Fame, we're just going to have you come to the All-Star game anyway.
It does strike me as this is like, if I'm Pujols or Cabrera, like, is this a compliment? Or is this like a backhanded, I mean, Pujols has made, this is now his 11th All-Star team, if we can call this one of those.
That's the
11,
thing. Is this a
right?
contract bonus? Like, what are the incentives in their contracts for making the All-Star game? Do they get bonuses?
Well, totally. And it's the 12th for Cabrera. It reminds me of something Hogs was saying when I think in an earlier podcast that he filled in about All-Star voting and how he's grateful that they have the statistics there now. This feels like one of those things where people who didn't know that Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols were in their late 30s and early 40s, and they just like, oh, I recognize those names, they would pick them. But no, they're clearly not all-stars anymore. So so part of me is like, well, shouldn't we just kind of let this stand on its own? Because if we're going to just hand out legacy all-stars, doesn't that dilute the whole thing about being an actual all-star selection?
Well, so that's sort of my question where this really led about this process is, what is the threshold for being a legacy selection in the future if you're going to do this, right? Let's just say Mike Trout 10 years from now, and let's say the last 3 seasons of his career have just been terrible. Like, would he still be a all-star legacy selection? Like, I'm just trying to understand where's the threshold here. And I'm a historical guy, right? I like the history of baseball, but this does just feel funny.
Well, like, what's the line between being a legacy all-star and like playing in the old timers game?
Exactly.
Like
you have the futures game.
Point.
That's what they should do. Oh, it's perfect, Dan. Brilliant. We got to talk to the MLB. You have the futures game. You have the all-star games for the guys who actually made the all-star game. And then you have the old timers game. It's the old timers game. It'll be great. You'll get everybody who's over 38 years old in the MLB playing. And then what's wonderful about that, Dan, is they can have the ice packs like on display in the bench area, so like the people can see what it's like to be that old playing baseball.
What about like, where does Robinson Cano fit into this conversation?
That's what I'm saying, right? Does he get I mean, he was really good at baseball for a few seasons.
He was. Like, we can think of a lot of guys like Brett Boone had a couple great seasons, right, on the roids.
Chris Colabello, remember there was like a 6-game stretch
fantastic.
where he hit like 8 home runs one time. Sign him up.
Who was the Twins like 1 month like player of the month that you quizzed me on a while ago? Delman Young. Delman Young.
Yeah.
Does he not deserve a legacy selection because he was really good that 1 month in 2003? Like, at some point here, we have to draw a line. Where's Nolan Ryan? Like, is Nolan Ryan gonna throw in this game? Is he gonna be a legacy selection? Like, yeah.
My goodness. Okay. Anyway, folks, it was just odd. I don't know. Let us know what you think about it. Maybe you're all on board and we're crazy people, but I just thought this was so funny.
All right, we should move forward here to Puckett's picks.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
Upcoming Brewers series, a quick 2-game series. I do wish, I know that they do this because it's like every year that we're playing the Brewers, but don't you wish it was like a 4-game series? Like, it'd be nice to get like a full picture of the Brewers at Target Field.
I thought there were years when they did this 2 and 2 back to back, where they would do 2 at Target Field, then 2 in Miller. But I wish this was a longer thing. I wish that, and maybe as the scheduling gets reworked over the next couple of years, they would do maybe 3 in Minnesota and 3 in Milwaukee. Like, let's have a little bit more of a series here than a 2 and 2. A 2 and 2 doesn't feel like you get a fair shake on a team. So who are the listeners taking here for this Brewers series?
Yeah, the listeners are taking Correa, which is not surprising after my prods at the beginning of the episode about leaving me Correa. And then you will be next, Dan, because you lost if you forgot. So who are you taking off the board?
I don't like this. I'm going to go back with Luis Arraez. Let's go with the slow and steady here over 2 games. That's what I'm going to go with.
That's a little frustrating because I was planning to take Luis Arraez. So I'm going to It's about that time. I think I am going to take Miranda.
I thought
and I think that he is going to have a great series.
Well, I guess for the Twins' sake, I hope you're right, but I'm going to go with the veteran here. I feel pretty good about that.
Seems reasonable.
All right, David. Well, how about you send us out here?
Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to be notified when new episodes are available. And if you can leave us a rating, that'd be great. A reminder that our episodes are now available on our YouTube channel. If you could drop us a like and a subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twin. That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.